Turning to the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine, President Biden spoke with President Zelensky today. That's ahead of a new wave of U.S. military support. The United States says it will be a matter of massive help because there will be $800 million worth of military hardware going to Ukraine. That includes new armored Humvees, helicopters, howitzer cannons, drones. Meanwhile, there's a European report today detailing new evidence of Russian war crimes, citing the bombing of that maternity hospital in Mariupol and a theater that was clearly marked as a bomb shelter for civilians, not a military target. The report also has documentation of those disturbing allegations and evidence of rape and torture committed by Russian soldiers. You may recall when President Biden for the first time has suggested Russia's actions were war crimes. Now he says it could be genocide.
I called it genocide because it's become clearer and clearer that Putin is just trying to wipe out the idea of even being able to be a Ukrainian. Horrible things that the Russians have done in Ukraine. And we're going to only learn more and more about the devastation. And we'll let the lawyers decide internationally whether or not it qualifies, but it sure seems that way to me.
We turn now to a veteran of several administrations, retired Admiral and Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby. Thanks for joining me.
Yes, sir. Glad to be with you.
First, what can you tell us about this U.S. military support going to Ukraine?
Well, it's another $800 million that the president has now authorized. This on top of a previous $800 million that he did just in the middle of March. And that material should be getting to Ukraine here in the next couple of days. So this is a new 800. It has new capabilities and some not so new capabilities, things that we know that they have been using quite effectively, like javelins. But the new capabilities were really designed to help them in the fight that they're in now and will be in coming days and weeks in the Donbass, in that eastern part of Ukraine, where we know the Russians are now redoubling their efforts. So things like howitzers and 40,000 artillery rounds to go along with it. Things like counter-artillery radar and mobile air defense radar systems, as well as more UAVs and even some unmanned surface vessels that will help them with coastal defense in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. So again, we're really focusing this package much more closely on the fight today, given what the Russians have now done in terms of reprioritizing their efforts in the east.
Yeah, you mentioned the Donbass, the east, the reporting as well as public references to U.S. intelligence about that being the focus. Does the Pentagon now view that as Putin's goal for an off-ramp to take part of the country and stop?
It's very unclear right now. We don't know whether it is exactly that. Try to get the Donbass, get that land bridge to Crimea, and then stop and declare victory, or is it to get some more negotiating leverage at the table? They haven't negotiated in good faith, so that's not clear. Or is it to grab that kind of territory and then to pause and then try to assault more in the rest of Ukraine and make another move on Kyiv? It's not clear. What is clear is we want the Ukrainians to be able to defend every inch of their territory, and they already have. These new capabilities that the president authorized will help them in that fight in the east.
At the intersection of your job at the Pentagon and diplomacy, which people may recall you have experience with as well, we see these reports about Finland, Sweden considering joining NATO. That could be a setback for Russia. We see the reporting, as the Times put it, instead of crushing Ukrainian nationalism, Putin has perhaps enhanced it. Instead of weakening this transatlantic alliance, he's solidified it. Instead of dividing NATO, quote, and blocking its growth, he has united it. Does the Biden administration view this as a positive way to push Putin back, or as a NATO issue that you don't necessarily want on the front burner right now?
I think, look, the one thing that Mr. Putin said he didn't want, he's getting. He's getting a strong, united, resolved NATO right on his western flank. And that's what he said he didn't want. He's creating this resolution among NATO allies to stand up for one another. We have added 20,000 more American troops to the European continent to bolster NATO's eastern flank. Now you have countries like Sweden and Finland, which are more openly now discussing the possibility of joining NATO. I think this is exactly what Mr. Putin didn't want. I can tell you that what we want for the alliance and what we want for our capabilities inside the alliance is to make sure that Mr. Putin knows, as President Biden has said, we will defend every inch of NATO territory, and we're making good on that promise. As I said, 20,000 more troops, dozens more aircraft. We now have a carrier strike group in the Mediterranean. We haven't had one, stationed in the Mediterranean, at least temporarily, for a long, long time. So again, we're taking those commitments very seriously.
And Admiral, we showed the new comments from the president about a genocide, accusing Putin of genocide. He's previously labeled him a war criminal. Yeah. But as you know, there's no way to hold a foreign official or leader on trial for those war crimes or genocides without an international criminal court. There's no other venue that currently exists. Yeah. Under this administration and previous ones, the U.S. isn't a part of that. Why does the Pentagon continue to oppose the United States joining the International Criminal Court, which would advance potentially that kind of trial?
I think that I would just speak to the concerns we've had in the past about the court and the possibility of possible prosecutions of American troops in war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and that's been a longstanding concern of the United States Department of Defense. But look, in terms of Ukraine, we in DOD, we across the interagency and in the administration are doing what we can to document and collect the evidence of these war crimes. We've said very clearly in just the last couple of weeks that Russian forces are, in fact, committing war crimes. You don't have to look any further than your network to see the evidence and the proof of that. And we're going to help collect that evidence. We're going to make sure it's available to investigators, international investigators, as they go forward.
To be clear, I just want to make sure we understand, though, when the president says war criminal, that has not changed the Pentagon's position that, war criminal or not, there won't be U.S. support for the ICC to hold that trial, to deal with the evidence you just referenced.
Right. Well, I won't speak for the entire U.S. government here, but here in the Pentagon, we've been clear about our concerns about the ICC and some of their activities and the potential ramifications for American servicemen and women who are serving in Iraq and Afghanistan. I think we've been very clear about that. But again, there are clear war crimes going on in Ukraine. We're going to help contribute to the administration's effort to document that, to collect that evidence so that it can be used by appropriate international tribunals going forward.